For the uninitiated, I'm Dr. Matthew Alford. In 2008, I finished my PhD in propaganda theory, and then took it upon myself to investigate the supposedly accidental death of Gary DeVore, an eccentric Hollywood screenwriter who had been working on a secret project in the 1990s. I conducted this investigation into what looked like an accidental death of Gary DeVore. And the police had basically theorised that for him to die, he would have had to have died in a case of wrong way driving 3 miles against oncoming traffic, and then plunged into an aqueduct, and then went missing for a year.
No one saw it, no witnesses.
Somewhere in there, he had lost his hands.
We would ask, do you have a John Doe with an odd right pinky finger? Because he never fixed his finger that he broke. That's how we would have them identify him.
The remains are wearing clothing that is consistent with what we knew Mr. DeVore to be wearing on the day that he disappeared.
Why were his hands cut off?
So I knew, and I looked into it, I knew that Gary DeVore had been murdered by the American government. All of his personal effects stolen, and it was all to cover up this secret, because he was making a film basically that meant that he was he had secret tapes and he had secret documentation, basically showed that the president at the time had been fucking this Panamanian kid in the fucking missing brain, or the fucking Neil Armstrong had faked the D-Day landings, or whatever the fuck it was, some big conspiracy anyway. There's a feature film I presented called The Writer with No Hands, which you can see on TV if you happen to live in New Zealand or Iran.
When we first did all the stuff to do with Gary DeVore, me and Robbie were talking on a daily basis about it for several months. We found out all the sort of initial stuff about the whole case.
Yeah, we did. Matt and I started looking at it in 2008, Gary DeVore case. And then we wrote an article on it, got a bit of that stuff in The Guardian. And then as time went on, I just, especially in the last few months, I think I've just started to feel a little bit uneasy about the case. You know, of course, you've received an informal or semi-formal warning from a CIA and DoD contractor who said to you, back off the CIA, you're going too far with this now. These people can and will ruin your life and come knocking on mine and your doors. I think that's a pretty sobering thought.
So I'm stuck in this position really, where like the only way I could have cover for myself was either to like join the CIA and the fucking NSA and all this shit, which I really didn't want to do, or I just had to completely destroy my legitimacy. So I became a clown. I named myself Oddfinger the Clown. I destroyed all of my research notes. I went on camera dressed as a clown and started being mad as possible.
You know what I think of your cookies?
Oh yeah, insult my cooking, why don't you?
That's what I think of your cookies. Let's move up, please.
Oh, wouldn't do that.
At the same time, I'd also just been living with my ex-wife for many, many years, and now it's like coming out 13 years, Ursula, and that was a really confusing relationship, because you'd have thought that there'd be some kind of relationship, but there wasn't. It was just like we split up, and then it was just like a bone that had snapped, and you try and put the bone back together, but then it just doesn't heal at all. Or like if you had like two women who had had their clitorises removed, but they still love each other, so they bang together, but there's nothing happening. So we were just like blobs of flesh just wobbling around this house with no relation. And that could do strange things to you. In my case, I was fine. It didn't make any effect on me at all. But I did burn all my research notes. I became a clown called ODDFINGER the Clown. And I did that as a way of protecting myself from assassination and surveillance from the American government. So it's fine.
I'm a very, very confident person, and I've achieved nothing. I moved to Bath because I was here to study a PhD. Do you want to know the title of my thesis? Yes. An application of Ed Herman and Noam Chomsky's propaganda model to Hollywood cinema from 1990 to 2002. After doing 8 years of that, the only doctor in Britain who was less employable than me was Harold Shipman. He murdered 200 of his patients.
Anyway, so I'm doing this gig in Torquay, and it's at a strip club called Beavers. I finish my gags, go out to the back. There's a guy in a Flashers Mac, and I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. And the guy in the Flashers Mac offers me a cucumber sandwich, and I realise I see his hat go up, and it's Jeremy Corbyn.
I'll tell you a secret. I'm the world's greatest loser. Breathing in midnight. Talking about movies. She's worth a million statues.
Now, Corbyn has been retired for a while, and I'm thinking, why the hell is he in Torquay at a strip club? He's undercover, and basically what he's doing is he's recruiting me to go to Washington DC to do a gig. And I'm like, oh my god, all my Christmases have come at once. I've got like, this could get me like big fame, this can get me on Wikipedia, this is going to get me a girlfriend, this is going to get me out of living with my ex-wife before I'm like 49. And then he goes, no, we want you to dress up in all your clown stuff because we know that you've got all the gadgetry. The thing that squirts from the flower. There's a complication. He wants me to do it at the July the 4th Independence Day celebrations in the United States for President Jane Bowerland. So, I think, okay. He also hands me, although does not give me, a copy of a new report into climate change. In fact, Jeremy's organisation had just received a specific intelligence threat. Turns out scientists had all forgotten to carry the one, and actually climate change was set to sink 45% of Britain by 2031, plus 100 million deaths worldwide. New models indicated that a couple of simple, swiftly implemented policy changes, blocked by Bowerland herself, would save at least 4 million hectares of England's green and pleasant land.
The IPCC, the international group of scientists monitoring climate change, came out with a very ominous report warning that the world has maybe a decade to basically end its reliance on fossil fuels if we're to have any hope of controlling global warming below the level of utter disaster. The assumption of the Ireland administration is that everyone in the world is as criminally insane as we are and isn't going to do anything about it. And since on that assumption, let's just rob while the planet burns, putting Nero into the shade. He only fiddled while Rome burned. I can't think of anything like this in human history. We have to make decisions now which will literally determine whether organized human life can survive in any decent form. If the sea level rises 10 or 20 feet or even higher, which is easily within the range of predictions, the consequences are unimaginable. But it's as if we're lemmings. They're just happily marching off the cliff, led by leaders who understand very well what they're doing, but are so dedicated to enriching themselves and their friends in the near future that it simply doesn't matter what happens to the human species. There's nothing like this in all of human history. There have been plenty of monsters in the past, plenty of them, but you can't find one who was dedicated with passion to destroying the prospects for organized human life. Hitler was horrible enough, but not that.
I'm trying to put two and two together and thinking, is this guy asking me to assassinate the President of the United States? No. He says, no, it's just get there, but we do want you to slip a sleeping draft into her food, which would incapacitate her for weeks and facilitate a soft coup. So this is my role in this. I'm like, why can't... And she basically is because only comedians can get close. And so I have this siphon thing that's going down my arm, which could either squirt out water or it can squirt sleeping drum. Anyway, it sounded like a fool's errand that would at best lead to a tasering and jail, but I'd long known it might come to this. I don't want to do that, although I do want the gig and I do want the money. So they take the British government basically encourages me to do stuff.
We did not undertake personal abuse.
The British government gives me all a cocktail of drugs. So I've got to go because they've got my kids anyway. They've got my kids in a safe house. And you know, when they call it a safe house, they mean death house, basically. Like, I haven't got any option. I go to DC, I do the gig. We had military and civilian allies at key choke points in the United States itself. We've got a lot of people around us. I've got a helicopter out the back from British SAS. I felt the weight of the task, but already too, a growing clarity of purpose. I could do this. In, out, a few jokes, boom, home for tea, treat it like the pig and fiddle, tough job, awkward shaped room, but a bit of extra adrenaline and we'll be alright. They've been showing me propaganda films, they've given me a stripper to come along with me to put me in this weird state that drugged me up. As a stress reliever and as motivation, Corbyn's outfit had provided me with a seductive mid-range Portuguese sex worker from Beavers named Angel Souza. I also had a siphon of poison running down my arm into a funny toy hand and a clown nose that doubles up as plastic explosives. Finally, I have the bodyguard, Marcus, talking to me through an earpiece. To preserve cover and a sense of normalcy, Marcus's superiors have given me a different partner to attend the dinner and walk the red carpet into the White House. And there she was, early 40s, beautiful, long-legged, olive skin. Our eyes met, and she flashed a look that seemed to say, "This is your fault, Ursula, my shithole of a wife." Fucking brilliant. I smiled the kind of smile that you can only make when you need to maintain cover for a potentially fatal presidential kidnap operation. "Well, you look great, Ursula, and what do you need to know, and is there anything I need to know from you?"
You made a sticking shit stain on the toilet. I don't do shits like that. The kids don't either. Are you going to clean it before I get home?
Yes. I'll deal with it as soon as I get home, and I'll make sure I'm back before you are, so that I can do so.
I do everything. I pay the bills, I work a full-time job, I clean the bathroom, and feed the kids.
Yes. I'll do the cleaning when I get home. I'm sorry about the toilet.
Make sure you do. It's not good, Matt. It's bad enough I have a full-time job and do everything.
I tried not to fall into the trap, but I was feeling mildly important by now, and guessed that I wouldn't have to see her again for quite a while, so I was in something of a rush due to this last-minute gig that I was asked to do by the former leader of the Labour Party.
One gig? You fucked up every job you ever had because you're delusional.
Oh yes, I forgot. I'm delusional.
Prick!
Ursula and I fixed our smiles and waved to the onlookers. I caught Angel's eye across the room. She smiled and held up her hand in the tiniest of waves, as though she'd already seen Ursula and felt like the other woman. Angel was at a table with Bowerland, and remarkably the two women were getting on like a house on fire. We were all at this big meal. I'm thinking, please don't sit me next to my wife, because she's complaining about my eating. She won't let me eat near her. She thinks that if I'm making a noise when I eat, if I masticate, then I'm deliberately trying to fuck her up. So I'm having to try and like get behind Donna Rumsfeld's head so that I'm sort of eating like that, so she can't see. They've given Trump's special case. Like, they don't give a shit about him anymore because they just hope he just drops down dead. So they've given him like burgers and fries, and everyone else is having something completely different. All the big dignitaries are there. I have to get up and do my gig. I'm nervous as hell. I started to do my set, and I'm thinking, well, I wonder can I just like deal with this without any violence? Because obviously I'm like, this is not a good thing for me. I'm thinking, can I get away with this without doing it? I think maybe I can just use comedy, like insightful, incisive comedy about climate change. No, in the real world that ain't gonna fucking happen. It's not gonna happen. I'm there to do some fucking stupid jokes, and that's what I'm gonna do. 2 minutes into my bog standard set at the White House, I saw no concern from Bowerland or the Secret Service. I held the pipette firmly, sidled up to the leader of the free world, and I blew a massive raspberry at her face. Just as I did so, I released the valve and I delivered the poison into her suit. And then the whole White House explodes. I think, have I just exploded the White House? It's not me. I twig that there's other factions involved here. There are bombs going off all over the building. Huge death. My ears are still ringing from this. I'm the fall guy here. I always knew I was going to be the fall guy, but this is super fall guy. They're going to kill me. There's another fucking explosion just going on down the corridor. And everyone's filing out, and they're filing out really calm. I've got no bearings on any of this. So I just leg it. No one seems to be shooting me, which is good. Angel's with me, but she's sort of flown off down the hall. Marcus is telling me in the earpiece that he's picked up infrared in the Oval Office, so I go into the Oval Office. Everything's open, everything's covered in smoke. Angel is in there. She's got her tits out, she's wailing the fucking blues, she's doing a shit on the Oval Office on the presidential seal. She had mental health issues already. On the other side, I've got President Jane Bowerland is on the floor. She's flat out cold. I think she's dead. I think Angel's done it. She's fucking stolen Marcus's camping sport and fucking jabbed it into her. She's torn her to pieces. And I'm there and I can see, more importantly than this fucking chaos, I can see there's a fucking open suitcase fucking bomb, nuke I reckon, on the White House table. No one there, the whole place is abandoned now. It's just me and this fucking stripper and this dead body. And Marcus is like, just defuse the fucker, just cut these fucking wires. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't know, do I want to defuse this fucking bomb? I mean, fuck these people. And I'm like, I'm dead. Whatever happens here, there is no way out of this. So I just feel I'll go my own way. So I see there's a 180-second delay on the detonator, which means that we can probably get out. Fuck it. I just, moment of madness, press the button. Marcus goes fucking livid, as you can imagine, but it's too... What's he going to do? Grab Angel. Didn't really know how to do a fireman's lift, but it just about worked. Get out to the helicopter. They're ready to take off. We're off. We go up into the sky, and I think, what have I done? Right up, all the way up through the cloud, I see these birds that just burst into flames. They're fucking like suicidal Sunday dinners. Their wings just go. They fucking fly into flames. And Marcus is like enwrapped with rage. He's shaking me. But, you know, who knows what the right thing to do there was. In the end, we get to the aircraft carrier. And, I mean, I'm so cool by then. Whatever. I mean, there's no way. What could I have done? Either way was extremely dangerous. As it happens, it's a British ship. They've obviously been given orders, and they think it's a successful mission. They they're literally lifting me up on their shoulders, and they're all like, fucking Oddfinger, because they all think that it's a real mission. Oddfinger, Oddfinger, Oddfinger. I think that I'm assuming that the people who set this up originally wanted me dead, but by the time I got back to London, what could they do? I was a war hero. They were pretty pleased, I think, in the end, the British government, because they knew that by destroying DC, even though it wasn't quite what they wanted to do, but they were quite pleased because that was part of the whole deindustrialisation process to try and keep everything a bit cooler, which seems to have worked out all right. So yeah, and that's how I became Minister of Education. You either die a villain or you live long enough to write your own Wikipedia page.